Reform MPs have remained steadfast in their commitment to cracking down on illegal immigration and ensuring the deportation of foreign criminals. They have made it clear that if and when they come to power, they will take decisive action to strengthen border security and enforce immigration laws more strictly than ever before. Their stance has sparked intense debate across the political spectrum, with strong support from their base and fierce opposition from critics who argue that such measures are too extreme. In today's video, we will be diving into a fiery debate as Reform UK leader Richard Tice goes head-to-head with a pair of woke radio hosts who challenge his tough stance on deportations. Tice doesn't hold back as he passionately defends his party's position, exposing what he sees as the hypocrisy and weakness of mainstream politicians when it comes to immigration policy. You won't want to miss this explosive exchange. But before we get started, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and become part of our fast-growing community. Just a quick one to say we do have new One Keir t-shirts available on our website. Go to britishstand.com or check the link in the description. Have a watch.
The British people have had enough of this nonsense.
What do you do to people who come from a country where you can't deport them back? That seems to be the critical issue when it comes to immigration in this country. People come to this country and they might either come illegally and therefore required to be sent back, or they commit a crime when they are in this country. Not every country they come from you can send them back to. What happens then?
Well, I fundamentally don't accept that as a principle. Every single foreign criminal should be deported. No ifs, no buts. They haven't got any rights to stay. With rights comes responsibilities, and they've broken the law, and that's it. Thank you very much. You're no longer welcome in the United Kingdom, and you go back to where you came from. We have to be robust and crystal clear.
Even if that country is deemed unsafe?
That is their problem. It's not our problem. We have to be absolutely robust on this. Our job as as any government's job is to protect the United Kingdom, protect and defend British citizens. That's the responsibility, and recent governments, both Tory and Labour, have utterly failed in that core responsibility.
And if the overarching legal requirements, European Court of Human Rights,
well, we should leave that. We need to leave the ECHR anyway, as exposed by this another ludicrous case where chicken nuggets for a youngster is more important than the protection of British citizens.
What happens if they're not criminals? You were very specific there in that answer. You said if they are criminals, we will deport them. But what if they're not criminals? What if they are people who arrive here illegally on small boats? They say, can't deport me back to my country because I'm at risk. What do you do with those people?
Well, if they're here illegally, then yes, they have to be removed. That's the reality. But the first key is to stop people coming. Then you've got to catch those who are here illegally. And look, the Home Office is trying. But if they're going to be transparent about the data, let's also find out from which countries are they arresting people, so that we know exactly, which of the countries who are mainly committing the crimes, mainly committing illegal acts, illegal working, so we know more about the data.
Can I ask you a question on that? Because I'm interested in that. Say someone comes from Afghanistan through Europe and they arrive in this country illegally. They come on a small boat, so that's an illegal entry to this country. In your view, should they be entitled to claim asylum in this country?
No, because there is a legal way to claim asylum, and we have given asylum to many, many people from Afghanistan who helped our forces when they were serving over there.
But there aren't proper legal routes for people to come from these countries. That's what we put.
No, we have to be crystal clear. The whole world does not have a legal right to apply for asylum to the United Kingdom, right? The role of government is to defend and protect British citizens. Yes, we have a long-standing record of welcoming, on average, 20 to 30,000 asylum seekers over many decades. That number has now essentially soared. And I come back to the key point. You cannot ask the British people to become poorer, for our quality of life to deteriorate, for our public services to be under unacceptable pressure because of the pressure from people coming here either illegally or legally from overseas, when we're not training our own people.
So someone who comes from Afghanistan, who in the last 20 years would have been granted asylum in this country because of where they've come from, but even if they've come via small boats, your position would be, if you come via a small boat,
you've come illegally.
You're out.
You're, of course.
And you'd send them back to Afghanistan.
You cannot accept illegality. Otherwise, you could end up in a completely lawless
So would you do a Donald
state.
Trump? Would you and say Afghanistan said we don't want them back? Would you do what he did with Trump did with Colombia? You put them on a plane and send them back?
It's very simple. You can go into individual cases. The fundamental principle is people who come here illegally do not have the right to work here, and they do not have the right to stay here. And that is the consensus view of the vast, vast majority of the British people. And what the UK needs is a government that is prepared to stand up for the British people and enact the law.
Even if the law of the world or international law suggests that if someone claims asylum, you have to give them to grant them asylum,
so
or at least consider their asylum.
This is the key difference, isn't it? What is more important?
Yeah.
Sovereign domestic law or international law from the globalists? And I tell you what, the critical thing is sovereign domestic law enforced by our own politicians and our own authorities.
Just let's be very clear. If a country says, I won't accept these people back, they're nothing to do with my country anymore, you're saying you would charter a plane, send them back anyway?
Yes.
But practically, what happens when they don't take the plane?
Well, we'll have to review that when we come into it.
But the point is, in opposition, you can say this stuff. But in practical reality, there's a bunch of people on a plane. The plane is in the air. The country's saying you can't land here. What do you do? What is the position?
Well, let's review that when we get to it.
In other news, the UK splashed £1.3 million of taxpayer funds on a diversity scheme in Mauritius while conducting the Chagos Islands negotiations. British taxpayers' cash has gone towards a bespoke aid programme, which included a scheme to hike up female representation in the Mauritian renewable energy sector, while Starmer was fighting to surrender the territory. In his attempt to give up the Indian Ocean territory, the PM has been blasted for the sheer cost of giving up the land, which could be up to £18 billion for the Diego Garcia base lease. The government would be required to make the payment across 99 years. Those fighting against the plans, including Reform and the Tories, have claimed that Keir Starmer is trying to appease international courts, which could, in turn, put the UK's special relationship at risk. The diversity scheme is costing Britain tens of thousands each month and is run by the British High Commission in Port Louis, in addition to the £200,000 aimed at increasing the number of women and young people occupying jobs in the renewable energy sector by March this year. The government has deemed the project good value for money, while Britain continues to foot the bill for training workshops for women and young people interested in green energy. Additionally, police sent officers from London and Cambridgeshire to Mauritius to support those involved in law enforcement on ways to handle cybercrime and to help investigative capabilities between January and March 2023. The British taxpayer bankrolled a £15,000 visit from the Mauritian Electoral Commissioner in March 2023 to learn election law and expert advisory services to support water sector reform in Mauritius for the price of £230,000. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has slammed the scheme, saying, "Frankly, the whole episode, from the very beginning and with all the more details that emerge, is getting pretty close to treacherous behaviour by the British government." He highlighted that the project began under the Conservative government and has persisted under the current Labour administration. The news has followed wider discussion over diversity, equality and inclusion (DEI) policies, particularly in the US. When Donald Trump entered the White House, he started to sign a long list of executive orders banning the diversity projects across federal institutions and agencies. The scheme, called the Mauritius Multi-Sector Development Program, was described as involving targeted interventions to support marginalized and vulnerable groups, in documents seen by The Telegraph. A Foreign Office spokesman said, "This program was introduced under the last administration to work with Mauritius on international development and climate change. It is not conditional on negotiations over the British Indian Ocean territory." What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.